Right, well here I am with that Royal Enfield pre-unit 250 clipper, and I've already been told what's wrong with the clutch actually. The clutch springs are over adjusted. I don't know how some people can do that with their x-ray vision, but anyway, meanwhile back here in the real world, this is me operating a clutch lever which feels sort of alright-ish. It's got a full range of movement, but it's rather heavy. And if we look at the corresponding movement at the clutch pressure plate there, we can see that there's very little indeed. So there's the first clue. So I'm going to take the this lot off, the spring assembly and the pressure plate, and have a look and check out the movement and length of the clutch push rod, and also at the adjuster screw and operating mechanism at the other end of it on the gearbox, on the gear lever and kickstart side. So first off, I'm going to get this lot off and have a look in there. But we can see the springs are certainly far from coil bound, so they're not the culprits, but we've got a distinct lack of movement to address. Right, obviously I've got the clutch fully dismantled now, apart from obviously the clutch centre is still on the gearbox main shaft here. If I spin that, there's a very slight throw and run out, which isn't really ideal, but I've seen far worse. And the sort of shine, it looks like it's quite a new component, this. You can see that the shine that's started to form on it is even all round, sort of in the circumference, but radially it looks like the shiny part has been making the contact, and there's a duller part around the outer edge of the circumference which hasn't been doing so much. But the clutch components and plates and linings all look pretty new, so they would need to bed in a little, and that would probably take up, I'd be more alarmed if there was a sort of shiny area part way round and then it stopped, because that would tell me that something was buckled or distorted too badly. Also, I noticed that the clutch springs are really very hard. I've got a feeling that these are probably the extra hard springs that are sold to put in the Royal Enfield 350 and 500 bullets to try and help their clutches grip rather than slip, and I think they're too hard, and they may well have been causing some flex and give in the lifting or operating mechanism and reducing the amount of lift available, because actually the mechanism moves freely and there's a good amount of travel there too. Hopefully I'm picking that up with the camera. One last little thing that I've seen is on the it's not so much this one, that's an inner plain plate, but the it's, hang on, let me get my facts right here. Yeah, this is the pressure plate. I'll take it out into the daylight, you might see this a little better. I've tested this on a sheet of glass actually, and I'll go over there in a moment with it, one of the windows in the old shed, but it should be possible to see a shiny area there, and there's another one around here which is less obvious, but that one is obviously a high point in the surface of the plain plate there, the pressure plate, and clearly that touches down and tries to grip before any of the rest of it. And whether I can demonstrate this, I put it on this window pane on this shed, and there isn't much, but probably hear that better than see it, but there's a slight, only a slight sort of wobble on it, and what I intend to do is just run a quite a worn linear disc, because I don't want to take much off at all. It's only a matter of probably a couple of thou, but I'll get the electric grinder, handheld one, and put a worn linear disc in it and just run back and forth on that a little, because even if that ended up being a slightly low spot, it would be better than it being a slightly high spot as far as slip and drag on this clutch are concerned. But in the main, I think I'll attend to that, and I'll also probably put it all back together with softer springs, and I think that may do the trick. That's what I'm hoping anyway. And as like I say, everything looks in pretty good order. I noticed that there was very little in the way of any oil in the primary case. Now whether someone's tried running the clutch dry as well in order to try and stop it slipping, I don't know, but I'll try a few of these things and see where it gets me, and well, carry on until hopefully I can get some sort of worthwhile improvement, I guess. I've got the clutch back together now, but I've only used 3 of the 6 springs that were in it, and the clutch operation feels much more as it ought to, or as I'd expect it to. But if I put the camera down here, hopefully we might be able to see this. We've got uneven lift now. I've got the machine in gear. I'm going to pull the lever at the handlebars and spin the rear wheel, and hopefully we'll be able to see the pressure plate lifted. But look how lopsided it's lifted. There's a gap there, opening and closing considerably between it, the pressure plate, and the first friction plate. So I'm going to try and deal with that and reduce that, because that can't be helping at all. That is a prime cause of slip and drag, because you try and release the clutch and you got sort of half of the pressure plate releasing nicely and the other half still trying to touch down, and what we want is good, even, uniform lift. So I'm going to have a look and see what I can do to address that issue, but that definitely needs sorting. Okay, I think I'm at a point where I'm ready to put the primary chain case cover back on and give this a try out. I'm back to 6 springs, but 6 much lighter springs than those great big heavy things that were in there. I tried 3 springs, but still had a little bit of wobble and drag, and I thought 6 springs, if I could get 6 that were light enough, which I think I have, would apply a more even and uniform pressure all over the pressure plate. And I've got good movement now and good uniform lift. I'll just put the camera down in a moment, and I'll spin the wheel with the bike in gear again and the clutch pulled in. But another thing that I've done, the small section of clutch push rod at the end that bears on the underside of the pressure plate is always, it looks like a little valve, and it's flat. The face of it is flat where it bears against the pressure plate. So what I've done, I put it in a lathe and given it a spin, and just got the grinder with a linear disc on it and changed its form so that it's like very mildly sort of domed or mushroom shaped, so it can better sort of apply even pressure right at the center of the pressure plate. So that may or may not have helped. And also, the first time I put this lot together, I got very uneven lift at the pressure plate when I operated the clutch, and when I spun the rear wheel, you could see quite a throw and a wobble on the pressure plate, and I wasn't happy with that. So I actually took it all off again, and I just removed the pressure plate and moved it round 120 degrees. I was going to keep, if that didn't work, I'd try another position, because obviously there's 3 positions in total rotationally that the pressure plate can go on relative to the clutch center. But I moved it round 120 degrees, put it all back together, and I ended up with it as it is now. So I think I'm going to take that and give it a try. I'll put the camera down and hopefully be able to demonstrate. If I pull the clutch in and spin the rear wheel, we've still got it there, you know, it's not perfect. There's a little bit of wobble and a little bit of throw probably still there, but much less than it was, and we're getting much greater lift as well. It's really releasing off the plates very well and spinning very freely. So I think that with those 6 springs in is unlikely to cave in and slip against the sort of rather tame 10 horsepower or so that this engine produces. So I'll put the primary cover back on. I'll also put some oil in the primary case, and I think as this machine's taxed and I'm insured to ride it, I think we'll probably go and have a little run on it soon and see how things go. But I expect that may well have solved the clutch problem.